This week I've been dealing with street children and the issues they face whilst out on the street in the local town. And it's a difficult subject to talk about. These boys and girls are not only homeless and hungry, not only have no one to love them, nowhere to sleep, no food in their bellies, often covered in various different types of fungal infections and stuff because of lack of hygiene. Get involved with drugs, but unbelievably, there's even worse things happen to these boys and girls. This week I had to sit and listen to a child tell me that he had been raped by men in the town. It became such a frequent and regular occurrence that it was no longer abuse and rape to him, it was something that happens. So instead of them having to find him, he would go to where this was going on, to be abused. Because that was his physical contact in life, I guess. That was his routine. The young children who were hitting the streets, these men will then take younger boys to that boy, whilst he does things to that child. And thus the vicious cycle continues. And the only way to stop the cycle is to take the children out. And there's no need for these children to suffer like this. All they need is a place to go. If they had a place to go, somewhere safe, where these men can't get to them, they wouldn't have this problem.
Very early where I am. Dawn, in fact. And there's an important topic with me. A one we should all look at and face. And that is that you, in your life, you are going to fail God. You are going to fail Christ. And I am going to fail God and fail Christ. And your family, your loved ones, your friends, your colleagues, they too are going to fail God, fail Christ, and fail to bring the love and the will of our Creator into this world at any particular time. Many people have this nuanced view that you should not say these things, that you can't fail God, you're learning as you go. But sometimes God will have a task for you. And for you to fulfill that task, you must remain undistracted by the world and its enticements, its pleasures, your desires. Or you may need to keep your heart open, so as you say the right thing to the right person. You may need to keep your connection, in other words, to Christ open, so that the will of Christ is coming through you. And you will fail to do that. And if you don't recognize that, look how many times you have failed your friends or your family or your children. Even though you had every intention of not doing so, you still can fail them multiple times a day, because none of us are perfect. And sometimes there is an expectation on your life, on your day, on your hour, on the next thing you say from God. And sometimes we fail. And the reason that we fail Christ, the only reason, and you see, we can move off into this and say, well, it's to do with sin. It's to do with the flesh and our lack of discipline. But as far as I see, in the middle of all of this talk and labeling and pointing about these topics, there is one reason that humanity and religion and spiritual teachers will fail God and will fail Christ. And you can sum up that reason using an image, I feel, that might work quite well. The ocean has waves, and as the wave ascends from the ocean and it rises and it crests and it crashes back down, at no point was the wave separated from the ocean. It was one with the ocean. It was a movement of the ocean. Now if that wave were to rise, and you place inside that wave the capacity for thought and memory in the same manner that a human has it, that wave would rise out of the ocean, and the awareness that is with the wave, understanding there is an individual manifestation in the dance of this huge ocean that I am part of occurring here, and the awareness which arrives from the body of the ocean into that wave would be present. But with the addition of thought, thought starts to circulate around that awareness that is aware of the wave and aware of the ocean. It's aware of its connectivity, its unity with the ocean, and right now it's having this dance as part of that unified ocean as a wave. The awareness knows it because the awareness knows the wave and it knows the ocean. But you add thought and it starts tumbling, like electrons spinning around an atom. And thoughts are spinning around the awareness. And 9 times out of 10, the result will be that the wave's awareness will get caught up in thought. And that thought will give it an identity and roles as this individual wave. And in time, the more the thought spins and spins and spins, and the awareness is observing and seeing the thoughts and reacting to them, then the awareness will lose track of being conscious of the ocean. The awareness encapsulated in thought will believe it is a wave and forget that the wave is part of the ocean. Now you can teach the mind of the wave. You can teach this wave that's risen and the thoughts tumbling and the awareness within there. You can teach it and say, hey wave, you are part of this huge vast ocean, this unified movement, this unified body of water. And as you rise from this body of water, you do not separate from it. And there are billions of you rising all around the world, and all of you are rising from the same body of water. You can teach that to the mind of the wave, and the awareness will hear the thoughts tumbling around it and hear, oh, I am one with the ocean. I am not this individual wave. Now, arguably, men like Yeshua came into the world to tell we humans, who are the waves of the generous heart of all creation, time, space and matter, poured forth by the one who transcends it. And we are waves in this field of everything, consciousness, atoms, this soup of frequency and atoms. We are waves. And Yeshua came in to tell us as waves, hey, you are to live as if this person is you. You are to love them. You are to love your enemy. You are to do that by being reborn spiritually. And that rebirth spiritually will bring you, for where Christ is, love is. And where love is, no separation is present. True love, the love that Yeshua is speaking of, is unity. There is no separation there. Where there is Christ, there is love. Where there is love, there is unity. Now Christ came and he tried to teach this, and it was documented. But a lot of the time it's going to the mind of the wave, and the mind says, okay, I am in the unified ocean. But the awareness hasn't actually connected to the unified ocean. And the spiritual rebirth is not to hear it and allow the thoughts to keep tumbling around the awareness in this cresting wave, which is identification with the human body, with the human persona, personal, individual identity. But the spiritual rebirth is to descend through the wave and through thought, out of the spinning thoughts that have captured you, like electrons around the atom. It's a good visual. To descend the awareness back through the wave and into the ocean that it's from. If you bring the awareness out of the tumbling thoughts and back through the cresting wave and into the unified ocean, the ability to say no to the temptations that you felt whilst the awareness was in the snare of thought and the wave is diminished to such a degree that it's surreal in comparison to when you are identifying as the wave. Not only that, but now you literally physically see another as part of the same ocean you are part of coming on at you, be they loving or unlovable. Be them lovable or unlovable, we can say. When you see others, you see unity. You see the divine spark in their eye, and you know it's in you as well. For yes, we are experiencing time, space and matter. We are waves coming out of that ocean. But if we identify persistently without any antidote with time, space and matter, with the cresting wave, with the flesh, as Yeshua called it, if we identify with that, with never having access to the antidote of moving awareness out of the entanglement of thought and back through the wave and into the ocean where the wave is coming from, into that unity, it becomes a very lonely place. It can become a fearful place, an anxious place. It becomes a place of suffering, for you are, as the awareness, believing that you are this cresting wave, and the antidote to this state of separation is to descend that ball of awareness back into the ocean and remember, oh yes, I'm part of it all, I am not alone, I'm not isolated, God is with me through this unified field that I am a part of and they are a part of, and the trees and everything is springing forth from. There is the antidote, but without the antidote, aside from fear and anxiety, attachment comes in, because we get attached to the cresting waves around us because we long for something stable. And of course there's nothing stable except that which we came from, which is God, which is Christ, the creator of all. And there we develop neurosis, and there we develop perversion. And all of this is happening because we as awareness are in the cresting wave surrounded by thought. And we simply at some point must allow that awareness to descend. Religion is failing Christ because religion is a big wave from the field of consciousness. The ocean has one big wave, and it is filled with information and thought which has been recorded and imagery. And now you have little waves cresting on top of that big wave. And if those little waves cresting on top of the big wave of religion and organized religious institution, if they bring their awareness into that big wave of religion, which was initially created by those waves who allowed their awareness to reconnect with God, reconnect and realize, oh, I'm an ocean. The ocean is setting this wave forward. I never separated from that. It's all part of, I'm part of that all, and it's all part of me. That unity, that is the initial experience that gave birth to the structure of religion. But religion grows, and so little waves crest on it, and the awareness of those little waves descend into religion, into this bigger wave, and they say, inside here is where I find God. And so this is why religion fails Christ, because to bring the love of Christ, you must descend further. Your awareness must descend further than that bigger wave and to the direct experience and union with God. And so the ocean is the direct experience, and now this huge wave comes of religion, and it's a big wave, and it's rolling and rolling, and for years and years little waves are cresting on top of that big wave. And those little waves are trying to tell the other waves who have gotten trapped in that circling thought as awareness that this is God. And yet as they are trying to bring their fellow man to God, a lot of the time they themselves have not quite brought their awareness down, not only through the crest of this wave, but through the bigger wave of the imagery and the symbology and the labels and the image of God based in thought, which has been collected in many religious formats, and transcended that wave as well, to go to the ocean themselves, not to hear about the ocean from Yeshua. It's okay to hear about it from Yeshua, but not to hear about it from Yeshua alone, not to hear about it from another human, but to understand that what they touched you must go to as well. And if you spend too long caught in these waves and not as awareness in the ocean, where you recharge, where you get that love that Christ promised, where it fills you with that love, that compassion. If you do not come to that place directly and then bring that love up into your wave and with it into the manifest world, into the human life, the human story, you can spend your whole life living separated from the awareness that you are that ocean and the unity it brings and the presence of Christ it brings, surrounded by thoughts about Christ and Christ's message and love, and wondering why on earth you can't do it. Wondering why on earth can I, for all I know all of this, and I've done everything I perceivably was told I should do, why aren't I as loving as he said? Why don't I have dominion over my flesh properly? What is going on? And it is because the awareness has heard the teaching and stored it as thought, and instead of that finally shaking the awareness to go back through the wave and into the ocean itself, it stayed here surrounded by thoughts about the ocean. And those thoughts are not a substitute for the ocean itself. And so those people cannot be loving, and that's where we see religion failing. We see a lack of love. Not always, I'm not demonizing religion, but I'm pointing out that we will fail God here. You will, I will. And it's okay, but the core reason for that is this. It is this understanding of the true nature of your awareness and its ability to move into union with the peace of God, the presence of God. And that requires no thought. It requires no imagery. imagery and thought can only hopefully trigger the release from the wave of that awareness into the ocean. But it won't always trigger it. People can live 90 years never letting go, because the wave is alluring. It's a very beautiful, important illusion. It's a very important one, for it has value. Being human has value. Being a wave has value. But something is wrong inside of us. Something that happened naturally or due to the temperament of a fallen species or the fallen angels. We ourselves, no longer as awareness, are able to move freely from wave to the unified field of the ocean of God's presence. From the wave and time to timelessness where we are from. We can't do it easily. The movement from wave crest down into ocean presumably was effortless in Eden. But since something interfered with us, and that something was our thought interfered and created a self-image, self-consciousness. Hence the fig leaves in Eden. Something in the biology captured the awareness's movement back to the ocean and kept it dancing in this trap of thought, this prison of thought. And you don't need to fail Christ that much, and you will learn from it when you do. But take it from me, who has failed Christ. And I had gone through a time where the awareness in my wave fell into the ocean, unmistakably. I came out of there filled with a new love, a new vitality. The world was far more beautiful. I had a deeper understanding about life and where I was going, and love and what true love meant. But in time, the technology in the wave of thought captured my awareness and began to make it amnesic of that journey back to the ocean. And the fallout from that was catastrophic. There was a lot of illness, there was a lot of openings for attack from the enemy in my life because of that, because of identifying again, because of trapping my awareness in identification with mind and body and its personal story, instead of allowing the awareness to go to the ocean and its collective story, which you are, which you truly are. And I learn from it, but you don't need to suffer like that. You can learn the same lesson in an easier way. And I guess this is why I make this video. I'm a deeply self-inquiring human. I'm always looking at myself. I'm always looking at the small things around me. When I look back and I see this, that my awareness was quite happily and freely moving between the wave and the ocean, and in doing that the will of Christ was being manifest around me. And I knew it because the fruits were what Christ said they would be. I knew something was going correct with this new operating manner of life, this operating system. But as soon as I allowed my ego to capture that awareness has a very short memory, and it's bedazzled by the ego quickly. And I stopped going to the ocean, but the thoughts were very clear what the ocean was. But I wasn't loving enough. I wasn't disciplined enough, because the actual love that gives you all of that power is only found when you rest in the ocean, not when you rest in ideas of the ocean and ideas of God's love and thoughts and images of God's love. And this is why so many are failing, because that last bridge, they love God. They love God. You can see it. But instead of having God, they let this spinning, tumbling thoughts own it. And the awareness looks and says, okay, I'm here now. Here I am. I am with God now. And the awareness goes, okay, I'm with God. And there's just lots of paraphernalia and stories spinning around it about God. All this imagery, you're constantly looking at it and you're in the middle of it. And yet the peace and the healing and the love hasn't come. And the reason it hasn't come is that thoughts about the ocean, whilst keeping the awareness suspended in the wave, is nowhere near a substitute for the awareness descending into the wave and that soul being recharged, guided, and bringing back into waveform the love and the will of Christ. For you must die and Christ be born. You must fall into that ocean, that unified field where we all are coming from, as I speak from that place now. And there you will find it. You will find all of the love and the riches and the supernatural goings on and the comfort and the guidance that all of the saints said you would have, that Yeshua said you would have, that many today living and breathing are telling you you can have. It's there. And if you are to fail Christ, this will be why. Have a beautiful day. God bless, guys.